Eliud.
Good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon. Yes, I'm Nora Riwa, and before you is the topic. My topic is influence of individualized instructional techniques on teaching and learning of the visually impaired pupils in public primary schools in Rongo sub-county, Migori County. I chose to do research on this topic because I've realized that in most cases, the learners with special needs are not taken care of in inclusive setups. And therefore, it is important that we cater for the learners, and it is therefore important to cater for the learners. Now, we have in most schools inclusive education going on, and you know that inclusive education is the education for all learners in mainstream settings. It is whereby all learners, regardless of the special need, is taken care of in the same classroom. The instructional methods are just given the same way, not considering the special need of the learner. Individualized instruction is important to these learners because we find that learners with special needs are given the right content in the right way. This means that the methods are adapted, the materials are also adapted, and even the approaches which are used are adapted. Now, in Africa, according to Fafuna 2022, we find that learners with visual impairment have unique needs, and therefore we need to cater for them by giving each learner or teaching each learner differently. We attend to the special needs of the learner when we are considering the methods used and the materials used. And therefore, Fafunwa 2022 advocates for that in most of the schools in Africa. We also find that in Tanzania, Erasto 2023 says that in the selected schools, there are several challenges which are taking place, and especially to the learners with visual impairment. These learners are not given the right content because most of the teachers don't use IEP, that is Individualized Education Program. Individualized Education Program advocates for learners being given the content in small chunks depending on the unique needs of the learner. Sorry? Okay, that's okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry for the interference. I hope now we can see whatever is displayed. We are dealing with the learners with visual impairment, and that is where we are. I was saying that the special needs learners need individualized education program which caters for their unique needs. The content which is given to the learners should be broken down into small chunks depending on the unique needs of the learner. In Tanzania, we find that teachers and students implement individualized education program for the visually impaired, but we find that there is inadequate implementation. That means that we find that the teachers don't accommodate all the learners when they are being given or when they are being taught. In Kenya, according to Okello 2024, we find that there is a major problem with the visually impaired because vision is a challenge to them. So there was need to do the research on how these learners should be taken care of. And that is the gap I had, because according to the literature which is given there, which I had already pointed out, we find that these learners are not catered for. And therefore, this is a gap which prompted me to do the research. We find that these learners are not able to benefit in the mainstream settings. And when the instructional approaches or the individualized instructions are used, these learners will be taken care of because the learners will get the correct content using the right material and the right method. The purpose of the study is therefore to investigate instructional factors influencing academic performance of visually impaired learners in public schools in Rongo sub-county. I had a specific objective which states the specific objective was to investigate the influence of individualized instructional techniques on academic performance of learners who are visually impaired in Rongo sub-county. The null hypothesis was that there is no significant relationship between instructional techniques and academic performance of visually impaired learners in Rongo sub-county. Now, according to Vasileva 2020, in their study on psychological characteristics on training of students in psychology, we find that within the whole class system, individualized education techniques are used. But we find that when individualized instruction techniques are used, all the learners benefit. And psychologically, you'll find that they'll be prepared on how they can choose their professions. That is, a learner is able to learn whatever he is good in or she is good at. On tactile learning experiences is another instructional strategy or an instructional technique which is used for learners with visual impairment. Tactile experiences means that the learners are given chance to manipulate the materials. Especially in the science subjects, we find that most of the lessons are practical and the learners are supposed to manipulate the objects. The learners with visual impairment are challenged because they are not able to see. They cannot talk of the shape because they don't see the shape of the objects given. They cannot manipulate them because they have visual impairment. And therefore, we find that touch-based assistive technologies are potential tools to provide graphical context, like when we are giving drawings, we use vision. And when a learner is visually impaired, he or she is not able to see whatever is drawn. And this takes place in most of the science lessons. We also have individualized instructional technique, which is termed as projected sound. Teachers of learners with visual impairment are supposed to talk loudly when they are teaching in their classrooms. Why do we say so? These learners use the sense which is active. And since the visual sense is not active, we find that they'll benefit from the auditory sense, and that is the sense of hearing. So, according to May and Tomilson 2020, a loss of sight is a stressful situation, and therefore it is important that we consider these learners when we are delivering the content. Content delivery calls for individualized instruction whereby these learners will benefit depending on the special need of every individual. Now, the visual handicap interferes with their emotions and the individual personality. So this leads to lagging behind in the content which is given. And therefore, everything happens in the context of consciousness and meta-consciousness. The study was based on social cognitive learning theory by Albert Bandura, that is the 1986, as explained by Rioba and Robinson 2004. And they state that learning experiences come as a result of observing the surrounding behavior. Most learners learn from whatever is in the environment. And whatever is in the environment can only be learned through vision. The research method used in this case was descriptive survey design, which indicates that or it describes the characteristics of the population. So the type of design which was used was research design, and it was able to describe the population, characteristics of the population, and it was used because it is appropriate. It does not allow any manipulation. The target population was 29 teachers, and 29 head teachers, and 40 special needs teachers. That is giving a total of 69 teachers. The sample size which was used was 40 teachers and 29 head teachers. And it was purposive because the method used was purposive. All the teachers participated in the research, and it was saturated because all the teachers, it was a small number. The instrument for the study was a questionnaire, and questionnaire was used because it is convenient, and even the results is 100% when you are collecting the questionnaires from the field. According to OBEN 2021, questionnaires are the most suitable instruments which are used to collect numbers when we are dealing with large numbers. And the quantitative data was used to collect.
You have 5 minutes.
Quantitative data was used to collect. Quantitative method was used to collect data, and it was analyzed using descriptive and inferential statistics.
You have 5 minutes remaining.
Okay, influence of instructional methods on academic performance was the main objective of the study, and we find that the results show that individualized instructional techniques on academic performance of learners with individualized instructional techniques on academic performance of visually impaired in public primary schools in Rongo sub-county needed a research to find out how the head teachers and the teachers use the instructional methods in their schools. The responses are given on the table as shown, and The first column is for the teachers, and the second column is for the head teachers. The findings were supported by Bolton Cover 2020, who asserts that majority of students have poor academic performance due to ineffective instructional methods. And therefore, the quality of teaching depends on the instructional methods which are used by teachers. So according to the results, or according to the hypothesis, it shows that there is no significant relationship between instructional methods and academic performance in integrated primary schools in Rongo sub-county. And that one can be seen on the table. The chi-square was used to show the effect of instructional methods on academic performance. In conclusion, we are having the individualized education program averagely used, and that is contributing to the poor academic performance in Rongo sub-county. So the result presented is useful because it can be used in Kenya and other countries, and it can be used globally so that the learners with visual impairment benefit from the education in mainstream or inclusive setup. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that nice presentation. We are going to take three questions. If there are any or comments. So one, I want to see the hands so that we don't have reactionary questions. It's just one. Okay.
Thank you very much, the presenter, Mr. Jacob Borage. I'd want to know from the presenter, you have talked of purposive sampling. I'd want to know that, is it that you are going to give it direct to the teachers with impairment, or you're just going to give it to the teachers, because you have talked of the teachers given to the task on that so that we get the response. So I'm asking that, is it that you're going to give it to the teachers with the impairment or teachers so that it can relate to the purposive sampling? Another thing that I would want to ask the presenter is, what are the new things that you are bringing to this study based on your discussion? In another way, I may also ask that, what is the rationale of the study? Thank you very much.
Thank you. In the study, I used purposive sampling, and purposive sampling is used when you want to get a particular information from a particular group, and therefore, purposive sampling was used in this case because the head teachers and the special needs teachers had the information needed by the researcher. Then question 2, the rationale of the study. Now, the study was conducted to make improvement in the instructional techniques which are used with the learners who are visually impaired. These learners are integrated or they are learning in inclusive setups, that is the mainstream settings. And therefore, you find that in most cases, according to the studies done, that these learners are taught the same content using the same materials which are used to other learners. So there is need to make the learning individualized so that these learners may benefit from what is taught in their classrooms. Individualized instruction deals with an individual, and therefore it does not the teaching is not done in such a way that all the class is given the common content, but the learner is considered depending on the individual need.
Thank you very much. Because of time, let us appreciate presenter. Thank you very much. Dr. Eliudoyo should be coming. Let us have that transition so that we save on time. Is Evernet there? Janet Akoth? Yes. So you will follow Eliud. You could already be uploading your presentation.
Roy, I'm waiting for you.
Load your presentations so that, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'll do that. My presentation, we are two. I am Eliud Oyo, together with Rhoda Adoyo Odhiambo. My presentation is adaptive competency-based assessment model for public universities in Kenya, in line with the theme. The objectives of the presentation is to develop and display sample structures of competency-based assessment tools or models, to demonstrate and recommend on the designing and construction of standardized assessment tools for public universities, and the other two objectives. Next. Education systems are rapidly changing globally. And there has always been a perennial outcry on how to get a reliable and valid assessment model, especially now that we are preparing educators to handle the CBC program. So the rationale of this presentation is, one, the transformative changes in the CB assessment in primary schools in Kenya. There has already been a paradigm shift in the assessment that takes place in primary schools in Kenya. There's transformative changes in the CB assessment in junior schools in Kenya. There's a proposed transformative changes in the CB assessment in senior schools in Kenya. So if there's that change, then there also need to be, we align it with the lessons that have been learned from the lens of the 7-4-2-3 system and 8-4-4 system, and then the global best assessment practices, so that we are in tandem with where the world is. The guiding theory is constructivist theory, that is by Jean Piaget, of 1896 to 1980. Now, this theory basically focuses on 8 areas. That is, when you're doing the assessment, the authentic context needs to be put into consideration. That is, to replicate real-world context as closely as possible. And then in the process, there need to be social interaction. That is the aspect of collaboration, so that it is not teacher-centered. There has to be a number that are involved in that. The aspect of reflection, and then the formative assessment is given some prominence as you assess the learners. Next. My methodology is document analysis. As you follow the following steps, you identify the needs for the literature review, identifying the research questions, identifying research databases, assigning inclusion and exclusion criteria, as well as the article gathering process, and then number 8, extraction and interpretation of the results. The research strategy, that is the criteria for inclusion that was used, was document focusing on competency-based assessments. And then theoretical and empirical works on the CBA, part of it I've just mentioned from Jean Piaget. Then observations and empirical works on recommendations on the CBA from the various experts in that area. The exclusion criteria that was observed is documents that were not written in English. The documents to which there was no full access were part of the criteria that was used for excluding them. Documents that had not a competency-based assessment format. And then documents that lacked detailed explanation and evaluation of this topic. That is how the research was done and came up with the next area, Roy. How to develop the CBA model. One, clearly articulate the purpose of the assessment model. What is the purpose of that assessment model? 2, appropriate method is chosen and is aligned with the objectives of the assessment. What is the objective of the assessment that is done at the university? Then outlining the learning outcomes to be assessed in the lens of the employers. The learning outcomes should be in the lens of the employers. And also pertinent contemporary issues, the PCIs, is very key when you are developing the CBA model. creating assessment tasks that align with the learning outcomes to be assessed, piloting to make the tools valid and reliable, providing feedback mechanism from all the relevant stakeholders, including prospective employers. You know, we train, and the products of our training are employers. They're the ones going to consume what we produce. So it's important that when we assess them in the lens of the consumers, not in the lens of the teacher. Next. Roy. Making assessment tool valid and reliable, you need to consider the following. One, the 3 learning domains in the assessment tool. Educators know here that when you are teaching, you are supposed to focus on cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. So when you are assessing also, the assessment should focus on those 3 domains, unlike what has been going on where the focus has been on the cognitive domain alone and ignoring the others. The PCIs are examples like the global citizenship. We have a number of them, life skills, values. All those must be integrated in our assessment program so that when you assess the learners at the university level, we don't just consider their cognitive ability. We have to consider all the 3 domains wholesomely. And then simulation of the basic skills of the assessment instruments, engaging assessment activities. You also check on the performing skills of desired by employers. Our assessment should be the skills that the employers desire, not what you think as a teacher is necessary for that learner. Roy? Revised Bloom's taxonomy, we cannot forget to follow this, because in the assessment model, the revised Bloom's taxonomy has always been remembering, that is the lowest level, and then the understanding, the applying, the analyzing, and creativity. Now, if you want to know if your assessment tool focuses on a given cognitive level, you look at the keywords, the key or guiding terms in your question. So if your question paper is relating on defining, listing, recall, name, you are engaging the learner at the remembering level. And if we are doing for the primary, secondary, junior school, senior school, we go by the format that is given out of research, whereby some items of remembering level should take 10%, and then understanding 15%, applying items should take around 25%, and then it goes in that order. That will give you a normal distribution curve whenever the results are out when you're comparing a given cohort. However, when you are at the university level, where my focus is, these are not normal students. Those who come to the university have a higher cognitive ability. So we minimize, actually we don't need to focus so much in the remembering level, but we focus as we move on, the remembrance application level, the percentage increases. You will notice when we're going to masters, where we are focusing also increases, because we want the products to be creators of projects, whatever you want. So there should be more focus on these higher cognitive levels than the lower ones, because these are students that are above average. That's why we are not focusing on that. Remember, this is assessment, not when you are teaching. When you are teaching, you have to follow all those cognitive levels at engagement. But for us to be sure of that, you must address that. Next. Assessment models already in primary schools, junior schools, and senior schools is designed such that from grade 3 to 5, they are exposed to formative assessment tools that are provided by NEC, and on the yearly basis, that is normally uploaded into the NEC portals. So there is periodic uploading of that, but at grade 6, that is when they do the summative. You will notice here the percentage mark load is 40-60. Summative is 60. As compared to 844, that was, the summative is all 100%. That is the same for junior schools. That's the same for the senior school. That is the distribution of how that assessment should be organized. It's important to notice that in ideal composition of CBE formative assessment, you need to have a combination of tasks: regular quizzes, problem-solving assignments, projects, discussions, computer adaptive tests. Next. So, hello, the technician, please. Okay. So, what is recommended for the university based on the CBC is to have in every topic, these aspects need to earn some marks. The attendance bit, some small percentage, the term paper, 15%, the hands-on activity depending on the area that you are dealing with the students, science or languages. Then there has to be the computer adaptive tests so that the digital literacy is taken into account. Finally, the summative only takes 30%. So that gives you 100%. So that in this format, the students will not be so much concerned about the summative test, but will be keen on all those aspects for every topic. And if that is done, the student will become competent in all the areas of concern. Next. This is what is being practiced by the universities that are topping in the world. The example I have there is Harvard University. We could follow in the same direction so that we don't remain behind. This practice of 70% summative, we need to shift from it. That's why there's a lot of cheating in exams. Finally, Roy. Competency-based assessment model should be integrated in the learning system throughout. And you must take into account the PCIs. It must be collaborative and in the lens of the employers. Should be learner-centered. Should focus on the milestones before declaring an individual competent or not. There is room for holistic repetition. There is no concept of failure. We can only defer the time for assessing the competency. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leo, for that good presentation. We'll take comments or questions. I want to see those who want to ask questions so that we take them one. Who is the other person? We only have one person. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moses Ongaro, a student of Rongo University. Now, the model or the method of assessment proposed, the question that probably I would like to put across is, how would you ensure that this model or this method of assessment directly address the industry requirements? And maybe as a subset of that, at the university level, is it possible to integrate the element of the RPL, or what we call recognition of prior learning assessment,
Thank you. If you are very keen in my presentation, I said anytime you want to set, you must have in mind the employer, what the employer wants, the desired qualities. If you talk about the domains, we have the cognitive domain that the employers want. We have the psychomotor domains that the employers want. So you have that in mind. You have the affective domains that the employers want. That is what you focus on when you are assessing. And remember, it is assessed throughout the semester at the university, so that you don't would wait to do it at the end. This idea of assessing at the end is what brings so much of the cognitive work. But there are aspects you can assess in the course of the semester, the values that can be assessed that the employers want, not that the teacher wants. We will be very sensitive to that. That is the direction where CBC is going. Competency-based assessment. If a learner has not attained a given competency, you defer. You give opportunity for the learner to become proficient before you do that assessment. That is the way to go. It's a shift from what we are used to. I am appealing that we have an attitude change, because that could be an impediment. It has worked elsewhere. It can work for us.
Way of assessment, or when you defer, for how long?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ari. I'm very much happy with the discussion. I think we are meeting it for the second time on the same model.
Yeah.
Yes, I would want to also ask you that may you also give us the weakest part of the model. So as much as we say that we must do this, we must do this, and if you don't do this, then what will be the repercussion? Thank you.
Okay. I don't know whether to call it the weakest part, but the universities need to do a readjustments for it to work, because you will be focusing on individual students. So we need to have change in attitude. Funding must be upscaled, because you have to have slightly manageable number. But as long as the politicians can listen to the experts, this will not be a problem. As long as the politicians don't control the experts, it will work. But if you give them room to control us, they limit what they give, then we'll have those problems. That is the weakest part. I'm praying in the next, or as we move on, our politicians can give the experts opportunity to guide the education system. Then it will work. It is working elsewhere, and that is the blueprint of CBC from primary, junior school, senior school. We must also change. Oh, how long do you defer? As an educationist, I am cognizant that our mental abilities are not the same. And how long you defer is as long as the learner becomes competent. If you use a method that is not working, then you change the methodology, the pedagogy. That can fasten the pace. But we are not going to have failures, because we don't have room for failures in the society. We just have to you make them competent. Then there'll be no more cry of those who come from the university.
One. And I discourage reactionary questions. That's why I ask, how many?
Thank you, Dr. Ari. I think mine is not a reactionary question. Duncan, author. Okay, my question, you are saying that there is no room for failures. There is no space for the failures. in this competency-based assessment. Yet we have different levels of performance. So what are you saying about these different levels of performance vis-a-vis the failures, as you have said, that there is no failures?
Okay, the term failure depends on how you've been brought up. It is punitive. So we have been brought up in a system whereby those who don't meet the required standards, we classify them as failures. We must change our mindset on that. I know there are categories of performances. Those who are meeting the expectations, approaching and all that. So this one who has not reached what we could classify as competent, it means, as a teacher you know this, you use a wrong pedagogy. You have to give room for this learner to become competent. As you give room, you change pedagogy. And then you can also change the time span, because these learners, some become competent after a long process. So it depends on individual learners. As a psychologist, I know any individual can learn, but the methodology differs. So we don't have the concept of failure. And my presentation to you is to change your mindset on the aspect of failing. Because even as we are here, there are many things we have failed in, but given a second chance, we have managed to pass. So we simply defer the time of doing the assessment. Thank you.
If you have not gotten an opportunity to ask a question, just note it and pass it to the presenter, and we encourage that interaction afterwards. Our next presenter is Janet. Janet Akoth. Janet will be followed by Odero George. Do we have Odero? I can see Omolo. You can follow. So you can already be loading your presentation.
Good afternoon. I'm Janet Akotochola. Together with Eliud, Dr. Eliud Oyo, Dr. Lazarus Okelo from the Department of Educational Psychology and Science, Rongo University. The topic is adaptive coping strategies for enhancing discipline in secondary schools. The background of the study. Indiscipline is a major setback in all aspects of pedagogy. And this one has been evidenced in most Kenyan secondary schools by exam cheating, truancy, vandalism, sexual offenses, drug abuses, and suicidal cases, among others. The rationale of the study, the continuous increase of cases of misconduct among learners, then the confusion of balancing policy issues and implementation of disciplinary strategies. The problem to be addressed is lack of well-defined documented and workable psychological determinants of discipline in high school to be relied upon in Kenya. Now, in this era where the rights of children and adolescents included in being given prominence, it leaves a state of imbalance on what should actually be done to attain a desired discipline level at the same time. Various methods like suspension, expulsion, and spanking students for misbehavior have been tried, but still there is rise in indiscipline cases in secondary schools. Therefore, there is need to fix this problem, as this is a big impediment in realizing the best pedagogies in this era. The objective of the study is to explore adaptive discipline measures for effective pedagogy implementation in public secondary schools, meant to examine psychological determinants of discipline in secondary schools. The study was guided by the social learning theory by Albert Bandura, 1977 to 1986. Basically, the theory stressed on the social context which influence the behavior of a learner in the environment. Now, it has led to desired behavior change for pedagogy implementation, and therefore, it will lead to desired competencies for post-COVID-19 workplaces. Next, please. The study was guided by cross-sectional survey research design. This design was used to measure and describe features of the target population. It was effective in describing and comparing subgroups of participants in a particular point in time. The research approach employed was mixed method, and this method entails qualitative and quantitative data collection. It again offered best chances of answering research questions by combining two sets of strengths while compensating at the same time for the weaknesses of each method. The target population, all prefects of secondary schools, all deputy principals, all guidance and counseling teachers. Form 1 prefects were not included in the study because of their short duration of stay in school. Next. The table displayed shows the respondents' population size and sample size of deputy principals, guidance and counseling teachers, and prefects, giving a total population size of 2,671 and a sample size of 400 respondents. Ethical considerations were observed. Confidentiality of the respondents was observed. A letter was obtained from Rongo University Directorate of Graduate Studies to allow the researcher to get the NACOSTI, sub-county and both county and sub-county commissioners were informed, and schools were visited prior to develop rapport and to seek for permission. Anonymity was observed, and the respondents were treated with respect. When psychological determinant factors enhancing discipline, this was made into item statements, and the first item statement reads: psychological determinant factors enhancing discipline. Psychological distress normally leads to misconduct among learners. Now, when respondents were asked if psychological distress normally leads to misconduct among learners, 45% of the respondents strongly agreed with the item statement, while 3% of the respondents strongly disagreed. Now, the overall mean rating was 4.17, meaning majority of the respondents agreed that psychological distress normally leads to misconduct among learners. Then when they were asked again if adopting self-adjusting approaches helps to overcome negative peer pressure, majority of the respondents, that is 35.9%, agreed with the statement, strongly agreed with the statement, while 5.0% strongly disagreed. Now, majority of the respondents strongly agreed that adopting self-adjusting approaches helps to overcome negative peer pressure, with an overall mean rating of 3.88 out of a maximum of 5.0. Next. Now, other psychological determinants considered were positive corrective strategies, improve desired behavior, proper self-care and consultations with teachers or parents can help to overcome negative influences, Then psychological well-being and self-regulation are positive determinants of a healthy mindset. Next. Now, the model summary for psychological determinants, it shows that the regression index of 0.294 was realized, and since the index is positive, it means that when psychological determinants are properly observed, it will positively and near moderately predict discipline level of learners. Next. Now, when psychological determinants are properly observed, will positively and near moderately predict discipline level of learners. And the last conclusion, when disciplined learners provide a good environment for effective pedagogy implementation. Thank you.
For that presentation, you saved 3 minutes, so we can interact for a few more minutes. Let's see those who have questions or comments that they want to make. It's your time. Yes.
Thank you very much. Just have a few. Thank you for taking short time to present before us. What I would want to just to know or find out from you is that it seems as if indiscipline is the major problem statement. And in this case, I may also ask you that if indiscipline in secondary school is the major issue, then which sampling techniques did you apply under your main objective to at least assist you in getting the required, in getting the correct response that may help you to at least achieve your study? Thank you very much.
Thank you. The sampling technique employed was a simple random sampling to arrive at the right number of the respondents.
In your area of research and discussion, at least what was the outcome? Based on that, in your area of research and discussion, what was the outcome?
Beg your pardon?
I'm asking, I'm just following what you have what I have asked in terms of indiscipline is the major problem of your study, the research problem, meaning that is the major, it is the purpose of your study. So I've asked you about the purpose, the sample technique that were employed on that. Thereafter, I would just want to know the outcome based on that. What was the outcome on that? On your result and discussion, what you have discussed there, result and discussion. So you are giving us now what on how you dealt with that now.
Yeah.
Yes, this is what I'm asking.
Okay. The outcome, the question is not very clear, but let me try. I don't know. When the data was analyzed and interpreted, the researcher realized that there is need to implement the psychological determinant factors when handling learners or indisciplined learners to enhance their understanding and to manage their behavior.
Okay, thank you. We normally work with, at least with figures,
Yeah.
based on the percentage that were, based on the gap that you go at all on the percentage, at least we normally talk of numbers, at least to give us now that really there was a gap based on this, and that was the outcome after discussion of this one. And this one, at least when it's based on numbers, rather than on theoretical issue showcasing, sometimes they not give us the right information, depending on what you got on the field.
Oh, okay, maybe from the displayed psychological determinant analysis table, it showed clearly that the ratios were indicated how respondents were responding to item questions. So generally majority, when they were asked the item statements, they agreed that when psychological factors are properly implemented, it will enhance discipline. Majority agreed.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. My question is, it's like indiscipline is your problem. Now, who are the main respondents in your study and the key informants? I saw you chose the prefects and the teachers in guidance and counseling. Why did you not choose the general population of the students? Does it mean that the prefects are the only one, or why did you choose the prefects or not the other students? Thank you.
Thank you. My respondents were prefects, deputy principals, and guidance and counseling teachers. Remember, I explained that quantitative and qualitative data collection was conducted. So for learners, prefects, they gave their views depending on the question items that are presented on them, to them, I mean, while the guidance and counseling teachers, they gave their views in relation to the qualitative data approach. So these two views were compared to see the strength of relationship and how discipline can be improved generally.
Let us appreciate the presenter. We going to the next presentation by Omolo Rolin. Karibu.
Good afternoon. I'm Evelyn Omolo. I'm going to present a paper that has been compiled by a team of 3. That is Omolo Evelyn Atieno, Professor Kennedy Getange from Kisii University, Department of Educational Admin and Planning. And then you have the third person is Professor Wilson Otenga from Rongo University, School of Social Sciences. The title of the study is The Influence of Teachers, Teacher Service Commission's Strategic Focus on teachers' performance in public secondary schools in Migori County, Kenya. So on the introductory part, and to explain why Teacher Service Commission is directly related to the employment of teachers and why they have to do the required things that will make the teachers be motivated. That can be done through strategic focus. So TSC being a body that was constituted through the Article 237, that is the Act of Parliament in the year 2019, its main objective or its main purpose is to undertake all teacher management functions, especially for registered trained teachers. So it is the employer of all the teachers that are working under the public schools within the country, Kenya. So after trying to explain the origin of TSC, how is it related to, why should we talk about strategic focus in relation to Teacher Service Commission? This is because strategic focus are the stated missions and other articulated ways that can be used to achieve the stated missions. So in any given organization, there must be vision, mission, and to some extent, even the objective of the different organizations. So TSC as the employer of teachers has the main function of ensuring that teachers are well placed in a given environment, and every matter that pertains to their working should be that which encourages them to perform as required. And if there are some other factors that make them not perform, the TSC as the employer should ensure that the vision and mission that are found in that given environment should be that which encourages the teachers to perform. So we have different researchers that looked into this specific issue of strategic focus that can influence workers. For example, Vemula in 2019 stated that for an organization to succeed, there must be some clearly outlined visions, missions that must be attained in that specific organization, and the pathways that must be followed. So all these are contained or entailed in the strategic focus that are supposed to be formalized, that are supposed to be strategically placed in such a way that the workers or the employees in that given organization are following for them to achieve the stated objective. Another person that talked about strategic focus, another person that talked about strategic focus in a given organization is Toporowski and his colleagues, that is in 2018. For them, they confirmed that linking motivational strategies to the teacher performance can increase student performance. And by this view, it was also supported by the view that was given by Toporowski et al. Was also supported by Bonisi in 2015. And other researchers like Etome and Mulwa, who are found in our country, Kenya, also confirmed that if there is a good plan by the school managers, performance or productivity of a given organization can improve or can increase. And to bring the topic down to our level, that is in a learning organization, Mwangi, a researcher by the name Mwangi in 2019 carried out a research in Nakuru, northern part of Nakuru, and confirmed that Teacher Service Commission highly influenced the Teacher Service Commission strategic focus highly influence the performance of teachers in secondary schools. Then if you look at the statement of the problem, the main reason why the study was carried out is that in Migori County, if you compare the performance standard of the secondary schools that are found in Migori as a county with the neighboring counties like Kisii, Homa Bay, Nyamira, Kisumu, and Siaya, you find that Migori as a county has a lower percentage of KCSE results in comparison to these other neighboring counties. So, the researchers found it necessary to carry out a research or to try to find out why learners in Migori County cannot perform as compared to other neighboring counties, and yet the employer is one and any other basic requirement that is found in Migori County is similar to any other that is found in the neighboring counties. So that is why the research was carried out to try to look into the reason why Migori as a county has KCSE learners that cannot perform or match the level of the learners in the neighboring counties. So if you look at the literature review, different researchers have researched on these specific areas. People like Oza Tozan in the year 2017 did a research and came up or found out that training programs are necessary, that because they can help to orient teachers to new goals and values, a fact that was also supported by Alzobi in 2019. Another researcher by the name Oregon and Gabodian in the year 2003 also encouraged the involvement of relevant stakeholders in policy formulation. And human resource functions, if well planned, can enhance teacher performance, as stated by Badwell and Claydon in the year 2007. But despite all the support that have been given by other researchers, Saba in the year 2012 stated that as much as the teachers can be involved in policy formulation and any matters that are related to student performance, for him, he saw that teachers can be included, yes, but it is the same teacher or they are the same teachers who can make the procedure or the process to be dragged. So they can be involved in implementation stage, but during their implementation process, they can decide, depending on their own views and maybe their own makings, they can decide to ensure that whatever has been placed for them is failed. So, as much as they can be involved in strategic focus and any other related process that make the process to succeed, they are the same people that can make or that can interfere with the whole process. That is according to Saba. Research method. Descriptive cross-sectional survey research design was used specifically because this design can be used in a phenomenon which is in a social, which has some social aspect and also psychological aspect in research. Then cross-sectional aspects that is driven from the descriptive cross-sectional survey was used to enable data to be collected across all ages of eligible respondent. Because the research was the research catered for both male and female, the young and the old. The best design was cross-sectional design. Then mixed method was used to collect both qualitative and quantitative data, because the data that was going to be collected could be some thematic, some data could have thematic ideas, and some data could have quantitative information that is figures that are supposed to be combined together, and thus the use of mixed method where quantitative and qualitative methods were combined and used. Study population. The study was majorly on 3,010 teachers from public secondary schools within Migori County, 271 principals in public secondary schools within Migori County, 10 teacher service commissioner, sub-county directors, and then for us to arrive at the specific figures that were required for the study, the sampling techniques that were used were probability and unprobability. Probability technique was used to identify the specific secondary school teachers that were going to be very relevant for the study. So probability was used to identify the teachers that have stayed in a station for over 5 years because they have the full information of everything that is happening in a given school. Then that is under probability. After that, Krejci and Morgan table was used to arrive at the figure, which is 346 teachers. Then 30% of 271 principal were identified proportionately. And a sample was carried out, giving a total of 83 principals that were sampled from 271. Then finally, all the sub-county directors were selected because the figure is easily managed. Every cluster or every sub-county is usually represented by a given sub-county director. So they were all selected. Piloting was done and 30% of every sampled size were picked. Reliability of data was tested after 2 occasions of data collection. Then Pearson product moment correlation coefficient was used to determine the reliability, and a p-value was used to calculate the hypothesis. Then the result and discussion, the main parameters that were being used to identify the strategic focus that are used by TSC were the in-service training that is usually done to the teachers. So from the field, the researcher found out that despite all the strategies that are usually being used by the TSC, some of the teachers are not so much into the procedures. They don't want to be directed. They don't want to be given direction. Though the researcher gave his own view that you are going to find out in the conclusion. So in-service training should always be encouraged in any given institution so that the teachers are made to know or to learn about the new policies, the new information that they are supposed to get while on duty. Discussions were made as per the parameters that have just been given on the slides. Then, in conclusion, Teacher Service Commission strategic focus has a moderate positive motivational influence on teachers' performance at a rate of 0.549, and the hypothesis was found to be at a p-value which is greater than 0.5, and the null hypothesis stated was rejected because the stated value was more than 0.05. From the conclusion, we find that most people that were being interviewed, most people that were being were responding to the questions were not so much into the stated questions, and that is why we find that the response that they gave was moderately positive. It was not so much or so low, but it was moderate from the figure that has been given there. So the recommendation from the study is that education developers like maybe the parents or the stakeholders should employ the findings in intensifying the strategic focus and investigating significantly on the teachers who enhance improvement and the best result on learners' academic achievement. So the teachers who are the implementers and any other stakeholders should be given the right direction, should be given the right mission, vision, and the statement that is given by their employer, which is the Teacher Service Commission. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daktari, for that presentation. We are taking questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you, Dr. for the presentation. Now, the study was addressing TSC, Teacher Service Commission strategic focus on teachers' performance. Now, purpose and statement of the problem notwithstanding, probably I didn't get it out clearly. Which specific objective or aspects of strategic focus were you addressing in relation to specific teachers' performance? And apart from that, there was a statement you indicated that probability sampling was used, and then you said teachers who are 5 years and above were used in your sample, having also informed that there was probability sampling. Maybe that one should not be answered, but find out. Thank you.
You want to take that?
To respond, I'll start with the last question that is talking about probability, the sampling size. For the researcher to arrive at 347, the first step was to identify the teachers within the county, and the total number was 3,010. Then from there, the researcher identified the teachers through probability sampling because the researcher wanted to get the people that have more information about the learners, because when you talk about student performance, specifically it is the KCSE result. So when you talk about KCSE result, you want to look at people who know these learners best, and by that, the researcher found out that it was very necessary to deal with the people who are so much conversant with these learners, that is the teachers who've stayed for long, or maybe who've stayed for not less than 5 years, because for a teacher to take 4 years, that is when he's going to be conversant with the learners and is going to be able to know the learners who can perform and those who cannot perform. So when dealing with the exams, the researcher found it very necessary to use the teachers who have a lot of information about the learners who are the KCSE candidates. So the probability method was used to identify these teachers, because in a given school we have so many teachers. So for you to get a specific teacher after getting the total number, you cannot randomly pick, but you can use a probability method to identify the specific teachers who had taken 5 years. Then the next question was talking about strategic focus. Before I proceeded, I defined some of the information of some of the content in a strategic focus. And I said, these are means by which policy can be implemented and other opportunities can be provided for greater variety or greater improvement of a given organization. Apart from the vision and mission, another thing that is contained in strategic focus is the process or the procedure of attaining the stated vision and mission. So when I talk about strategic focus, I'm not so specific on a given one, but the researcher was trying to address the general strategic focus that can be used in a given organization for the success of that specific organization. So I was not so specific on a given strategic focus.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mine is very much brief. Based on your performance indicators that you have mentioned, I believe that you are also a teacher the same. Yes, the study was in Migori. Performance indicators that you have highlighted in your study there. Do they resonate with what you got in the field, Dr. Ari? And is there a new thing that you are coming up with? Meaning that is there a gap? Because I know you are well conversant with the TSC's indicators on how they boost their performance or on how they want things to be. And you're the same, you're also in the same discipline. Thank you.
So the indicators used in the study were, there are so many, but the researchers specifically used in-service training of teachers as a way of getting or letting the teachers have vast knowledge on what should be done so that they can be able to perform. So when we talk about in-service training, specifically for the teachers, it entails a lot. And this in-service training is not usually being done. And that is why the study was carried out, because there is a gap. So the study was carried out so that the in-service training that is supposed to be done to the teachers can be implemented so that the result can be relayed in such a way that these trained teachers will be able to know their vision and mission and the procedure of which they're supposed to follow, so that by the end of their teaching, their end product can be productive. So it was a recommendation to the employer that they should come down in service the teachers or offer in-service training for the teachers so that the teachers may be exposed, they may be able to implement the vision, missions, and the objectives of their employer, which is TSC. So it was a gap that was being handled. It is not practical. It is not being practiced by the employer.
Yes, Doc, just in one statement that what was the status of performance before you come up with this? At least you must tell us the status of Migori based on a percentage by that time. So what you are now working on as a study that you have now realized, you are now promising us that now from 30% where Migori was, based on inward training service that you identified, is going to add to which percentage? You know, this is what you talk about study or the gap that you are, so that we know that this one can work.
Thank you. Not all the information could be relayed on the slides. I have a summary of a table that is showing the performance of the learners in Migori County from the year 2022 to 2024. Depending on the grades, the categorization of the learners, that is maybe a group like in 2022, 47 learners got grade A. So from this table, there was a comparison between the table that was made from Migori County KCSE results and other neighboring counties. And that probed the research or the researcher to find out why is Migori at 47.7% and not like Siaya, which is 51%. So the researcher wanted to find out why this disparity. Why is Migori lagging behind with 49.7 and not a county like Siaya or maybe Kisii, and yet all other learning parameters are the same. So the figures are stated in the document. Unless you want more explanation.
Thank you very much. Let us give an applause. And I'm advised that it is time for lunch. So we are going to break and have our lunch just across. And then we'll be back and continue with the presentation. Be blessed.